What if the Union had not been preserved and America had been split in two? In our timeline, the American Civil War ended in 1865 with the surrender of the Confederacy and the preservation of the Union. President Abraham Lincoln's armies defeated the rebel states, slavery was abolished, and the United States began the long road of Reconstruction. But what if the war had ended differently? What if a single battle, a single decision, or a single election had changed everything? For the Confederacy to win, the Union would have needed to lose its will to fight. A Confederate victory at Antietam or Gettysburg might have convinced European powers like Britain and France to recognize the South. The election of 1864 could have gone against Lincoln if Union armies had suffered more defeats. Or Britain might have entered the war to protect its cotton supply, breaking the Union naval blockade and turning the tide. A Confederate victory would have meant the birth of a new nation. Stretching from Virginia to Texas, the Confederate States of America would have built its government around the protection of slavery and states' rights. Its economy would have depended on cotton, tobacco, and enslaved labor. Without the industrial power of the North, the Confederacy might have struggled to modernize, remaining a largely agricultural society for generations. The most painful consequence of Confederate independence would have been the continuation of slavery. Instead of the 13th Amendment ending slavery across the United States in 1865, enslaved people in the South might have remained in bondage for decades longer. Some historians believe slavery would have eventually collapsed economically, but it could have lasted into the 20th century, affecting millions of lives and generations of families. The United States would have continued as a smaller, northern-led nation. Without the South, American politics would have been dominated by industrial and agricultural interests of the North and Midwest. The Republican Party might have remained powerful for much longer. The country would still have expanded westward, but without the South competing for new territories, the balance of free and slave states would no longer have mattered. In our timeline, Reconstruction tried to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into American society. A divided America would have had no Reconstruction in the South. Freed people would have had no federal protection. Black codes and segregation might have become permanent features of Confederate law from the very beginning, shaping a society even more unequal than the one that actually emerged. The American economy would have split into two rival systems. The industrial North would have built factories, railroads, and cities. The agricultural South would have exported cotton and tobacco to Europe. Over time, the North would likely have become far richer and more technologically advanced. The South might have become economically dependent on Britain and France, much like other plantation colonies around the world. Without a unified United States, westward expansion would have been chaotic. The two Americas might have raced to claim territories in the West. Mexico, which had lost much of its northern land, might have regained influence. Native American nations might have found new opportunities to play the two powers against each other, or they might have been crushed between them. The map of the continent would look nothing like it does today. Millions of immigrants came to America in the late 1800s seeking opportunity and freedom. In a divided nation, immigration patterns would have changed. The industrial North might have welcomed workers for its factories and railroads. The Confederacy, built on slavery, might have discouraged immigrants who could compete with enslaved labor. The cultural makeup of the two nations would have diverged dramatically over time. A divided America would have entered the world wars very differently, if at all. Without the full industrial and military power of a unified United States, the Allies in World War I might have struggled to defeat Germany. Britain and France might have been weakened or forced to negotiate a peace. The Confederacy might have sided with Britain for economic reasons. The entire 20th century could have unfolded along different lines. World War II would have been even more transformed. A divided America could not have become the arsenal of democracy. Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan might have faced weaker opposition. The Confederacy, with its own history of racial hierarchy, might have found common cause with fascist ideologies or stayed neutral. The Holocaust might have been harder to stop, and the war could have ended very differently. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s was powered by the moral authority of the federal government and the idea of a unified American nation. In a divided America, civil rights advances would likely have been slower and more limited. The Confederacy might have resisted equality for generations. Even the northern United States might have been less willing to confront its own racism without the South as a clear contrast. Many great American inventions came from a unified national system of research, universities, and government funding. A divided America might still have produced great inventors, but the scale would have been smaller. The space race might have been led by Germany, the Soviet Union, or Britain instead of the United States. The internet, born from American military and academic networks, might have developed very differently or not at all. Today, a divided America might look like two very different countries. The North could resemble a larger, more industrial Canada or a European-style social democracy. The South might resemble an authoritarian, economically unequal state with deep racial divisions. Border tensions, trade disputes, and military rivalry could have lasted for more than a century and a half. Without a unified United States, the global balance of power would be completely different. There would be no American superpower shaping the 20th century. The British Empire might have lasted longer. The Soviet Union might have spread communism further. China might have risen even sooner. The world order we know, built around American leadership, would rest on entirely different foundations. This alternate timeline reminds us how much depended on the outcome of the Civil War, the preservation of the Union, the end of slavery, and the long struggle for equal rights were not guaranteed. They were the result of sacrifice, leadership, and a series of choices that could easily have gone another way. The United States, as we know it, was forged in that conflict. History is full of turning points, but few were as important as the American Civil War. The decision to fight for the Union and against slavery shaped everything that came after. Imagining a different outcome helps us understand how fragile those achievements were and why the ideals of unity, freedom, and equality remain worth defending today.